Welcome to the Screenplay Lab. I'm your host, Jeff Barker. I'm a screenwriter, and this is a podcast where we study and appreciate the standalone beauty of the screenplay as an independent literary piece, not just a blueprint for the film. We take one screenplay, we break it down, we find out what's unique about it, what we love about it, and most of all, what we can learn from it. And this week is episode 20, and we're breaking down Barbie by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach.
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Ken!
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Barbie! Hi, Barbie! Hi, Barbie! Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Ken!
Hi, Ken.
With the radio blast and goes cruising just as fast as she can now.
I thought I might stay over tonight.
Why?
Because we're girlfriend, boyfriend.
To do what?
I'm actually not sure.
This is a 2023 genre-bending satire fantasy that isn't afraid to be meta. Truly one of the funniest screenplays in years, and it led to a true cultural moment. Barbie was nominated for 8 Oscars, including Best Adapted Screenplay. It's funny that they chose to go adapted because it wasn't really based off of any text, just off of my friends here. But it only won 1 Oscar, and that was for Best Original Song. It was nominated for 9 Golden Globes, got 2 wins, Best Song again, and the new category, the Box Office Achievement Award. It was nominated for 5 BAFTAs, no wins, but it was a darling of the Critics' Choice, nominated for a record-breaking 18 nominations. I didn't even know they had that many categories. And it won a record-breaking 6 awards at the Critics' Choice, including Best Original Screenplay. And let's meet our writers, Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach. They're romantic and creative partners since the early 2010s. Got married in 2023, right before Barbie came out. And Barbie is their 3rd screenplay together, but they've been on many, many projects together, different combinations of writer, director, actor, both known for heartfelt characters with sharp dialogue and deep themes. And so they're a great team, one of the best teams in Hollywood. And let's start with Noah Baumbach. 55 years old, from New York. His father was a novelist. His mother was a film critic. He has 3 children, 2 with Greta Gerwig. He has an English degree from Vassar. At 25 years old, he wrote his first feature screenplay. It was called Kicking and Screaming. It was a semi-autobiographical comedy about being aimless after college. Many of us know what that's like. He got the script to a friend who got it to another friend who got it to a producer named Joel Castleberg. That producer had connections at Trimark. Trimark read it. They liked it, and it was at the time where there was a lot of these small budget indie films being made about this sort of subject, and so they were like, let's do it. They greenlit it, and then, get this, they allowed him to direct it. A guy with no experience in the film business at all is now directing this project that he wrote, a true life-changing event. It made back its $1 million budget, and it gained high praise from the critics, and so now he's a known quantity in this small circle of Hollywood. And over the years, this movie has grown and grown and grown. It has one of these cult statuses. If you don't know about it, you might want to check it out. And that opened the door for Baumbach, which led to other projects. He went on to write 2 more movies that didn't do as well. And that led him to what he called a creative dark period. During that time of about 7 years, he was working mostly as a script doctor, working on other people's projects. He wrote a few TV pilots that didn't go anywhere. Then he was dealing with another personal tragedy, which gave him an idea. The great stories come from these things that happen to us as writers and have to get out. This was his parents divorcing and him being a young adult and not knowing how to handle that. And so he wrote the screenplay, The Squid and the Whale. This starred Jeff Daniels, and this was Jesse Eisenberg's breakout role. He was just a kid in this movie. And Noah Baumbach was nominated for an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay for this film. And so he's back on the horse. He won awards at Sundance and at Gotham. It made over 7 times its production budget, so a huge success, this movie. That led to his 2007 film, Margot at the Wedding, starring Nicole Kidman. And then, in 2009, he was directing his next screenplay called Greenberg, and he was impressed with an actor who was making a huge splash on the Mumblecore indie scene. I'll explain what that is in a minute. And that was Greta Gerwig. And she was cast as the female opposite of Ben Stiller in this movie, which was a success. And they began a personal relationship and then have gone on to do 4 more films together in some combination. And their careers together have been a huge success, but they also do their own projects individually, and those are also huge successes, including his 2019 film, Marriage Story, starring Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. For that, he received another Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay. So 2 powerhouses. Individually, they are mighty. Together, they are pretty much unstoppable. Let's meet Greta Gerwig. She's 41 years old from Sacramento, California. Her mom's a nurse. Her dad works at a bank. Her parents encouraged her at a young age to pursue her passion of the arts and of writing and putting on skits and putting on plays. In fact, she would write skits and write plays and then hand out the scripts to her parents and assign roles to them, and they had to perform. Sounds like really good parents. She went on to get an English and philosophy degree from Barnard College, where she was a roommate at the time with Kate McKinnon of SNL fame, who also played Weird Barbie in the movie. We have a Weird Barbie in this house, too. This isn't one of them. I should have brought that one out. Here it is. Here's our Weird Barbie. Not quite like Kate McKinnon's weird, but a little weird. We had to cut her hair because she had a lot of goo in it. So toward the end of college and after college, she stumbled into the Mumblecore movement. I told you I'd tell you what that is if you don't know. It's these low-budget, early 2000 films that were all about the same sort of topic. Young adults navigating life and love and identity, trying to find out who they are. Basically, it was a spotlight on people my age, so it's exactly my age, leaving college and trying to figure out how to become an adult. So apparently a lot of people like me were watching these films. I remember watching quite a few of them. Thought they were cool. It was known for this like natural dialogue and awkward social interactions and a lot of improv. You know, it'd be like, you guys are going to sit in the kitchen, you're going to argue about this topic, and at the end we want to get to this conclusion, go. And there's a lot of scripted stuff too, but it was a lot of straight to DVD type movies. Today it would be streaming. But the person who was crowned by critics and magazines as the it girl of Mumblecore, I see why they did that. That rhymes. It girl of Mumblecore was Greta Gerwig. She has this quality to her as an actor where she's very grounded, very like someone you would meet at a coffee shop, at the PTO meeting, but she still is a movie star, you know, like she's like the perfect version of, I don't want to say the girl next door because that's got a different connotation, the neighbor or the best friend, like someone who's really in your life. She brings that to the screen, and that's why she was amazing in these films. In 2007, she co-wrote and starred in Hannah Take the Stairs. In 2008, she co-directed and starred in Nights and Weekends. But then she moves over to mainstream acting, and who's the first person who casts her in a mainstream Hollywood film? Her now husband, Noah Baumbach. She broke in with Greenberg, that's the film with Ben Stiller. She went on to do 8 movies as an actor, including the animated film Isle of Dogs, To Rome with Love, that's the Woody Allen film, Jackie with Natalie Portman, No Strings Attached with Ashton Kutcher and Natalie Portman again. She also wrote and co-directed several films during that time. But then, 2017, Ladybird, her first solo screenwriting and her solo directorial debut, and it was a tremendous movie. It's an autobiographical coming-of-age story about a young woman and her mother, so about her and her mother. She became the first woman nominated for Best Director at the Oscars in 8 years, and only the 5th ever at any time. Ladybird was also nominated for Best Picture and Best Original Screenplay, and it won a Golden Globe for Best Comedy, a budget of $10 million, and it made $80 million. That's a lot of money for a movie like that. In 2019, she wrote and directed the adaptation of Louisa May Alcott's novel Little Women. 6 Academy Award nominations for that one, including Best Picture and Best Adapted Screenplay. It grossed $218 million. And then in 2023, Barbie, she co-wrote that one with Baumbach. She became the first female director to lead a film beyond $1 billion. Wow. I just realized this saying it out loud, but every screenplay that she has written or co-written and then gone on to direct, that screenplay was nominated for an Academy Award. The true talent of Greta Gerwig as a screenwriter, and again, we don't want to leave Baumbach out of this one because he gets huge credit for Barbie. In fact, she gives him tons of credit. But when you look at her other screenplays, Ladybird in particular, and also Little Women, the action lines are written in the voice of the characters that are driving the scene. It's something you don't see very often. You could see it when it's a character-driven screenplay and someone gets locked into that voice, locked into that tone. But she is constantly switching it depending on who's driving the scene. So what's next for Greta Gerwig? Netflix. Netflix paid high 9 figures for the rights to the Narnia franchise, and they're going to make some films and spend a ton of money. And she is going to write and direct those films. She is working on the first one now, which is going to start filming pretty soon. It's going to have a $200 million budget. And just announced this week that this is the first film that Netflix is going to put out in theaters for 2 weeks before it comes on Netflix. The rule is for a film to be nominated in award season, it has to have a theatrical release. But a theatrical release is defined as being in at least one theater and showing at least once a day for 7 days in a row. So this is what Netflix has been doing, picking a couple of theaters, giving it 7 showings and pulling it, putting it on. I mean, they paid for it. It makes sense. They want it to be on their service mostly. But then that makes it eligible for award season. This one, though, they're going to put out in more theaters and for 2 weeks. And then they're going to pull it. And then on Christmas Day, 2026, you'll be watching it on Netflix for the first or second time. So how was Barbie developed? Well, the story's a doozy. 2009, Mattel makes a deal with Universal for Barbie to do a movie, and that never happened. And then in 2014, Sony acquired the rights, and they, in 2016, decided to use Amy Schumer as the writer and as Barbie, and she co-wrote a script with her sister, but then it all just fell apart because of creative differences, clashes with the studio. Then in 2017, Anne Hathaway was set to star with Olivia Milch writing the script, but Sony's option lapsed before they could get the project going. So then that fell apart. So then it goes, after all that time and money, it goes back to Mattel. Now they have sole rights again. So what are they going to do with it? Well, in comes Business Barbie, Margot Robbie. Her production company is called Lucky Chap. She met with Mattel. She brought in Warner Brothers. They worked out a deal where she would be one of the major producers of the screenplay and movie and also an on-screen participant. But who would she be? Who would she play in this movie? All Robbie had to do was find a screenwriter who could produce a screenplay that Warner Brothers and Mattel would both like enough to give the green light to. Sounds impossible, actually. So how did the impossible become possible? The answer is Olympic skater Tonya Harding. What? In 2017, Margot is doing award season press because she is starring in I, Tonya. Remember that movie? That was a good movie too. 2017 was a great year for movies, really. At the same time she's doing her award season press, Greta Gerwig is doing her award season press for Ladybird. And they keep seeing each other everywhere they go. And so obviously the two cool people are going to become cool friends. In fact, speaking of cool, Margot Robbie tells a story where she felt intimidated by Greta because she thought she was so cool and she was afraid that she didn't think she was cool. It kind of sounds like the Barbie script. So in 2019, Robbie asked Gerwig if she will write and direct the Barbie movie, and she says, yes, I'll do it, but only if my creative partner, Baumbach, can write it with me. And she says, yeah, of course, sure. So the problem is Gerwig forgot to tell him that she signed him up to write Barbie, and he thought it was a horrible idea. He found out about it on Twitter. There's a hilarious interview on 60 Minutes where the two of them are talking about it, and they reenact what happened when he found out. And one of the things he says is he thought that a project like that was career-ending for a serious filmmaker, and he didn't want any part of it. But as these things go, Gerwig kept throwing ideas at him and showing him how it could be something meaningful and not just something silly. So he decided he'd give it a go with her, and we're all glad he did. The initial draft was written in 2021 during the COVID lockdown. There's a lot of COVID feel in this screenplay, but the script was very fluid. It's had a lot of drafts, a lot of changes. In fact, this first script came in at 147 pages. But the one thing that is stuck from the beginning is that in the character tag for the main Ken doll in the screenplay, they wrote Ken Ryan Gosling. He wasn't attached in any way. Nobody knew someone who knew him that said he wanted to play Ken. It was put in there more as a joke because this was their version of what a Ken doll, a real life Ken doll would look like. But it never came out because obviously he is Knuff and he did become Ken. And then one of the worst kept secrets in Hollywood, we finally found out what Margot Robbie's on-screen participation would be. Barbie. She would play Barbie. So 2 megastars at the helm, 2 amazing screenwriters, 1 award-winning director. What could go wrong? Principal photography started in March of 2022, lasted 4 months. It was a long shoot. And they shot it in the United Kingdom, not in LA. I bet you're shocked by that. Now, they did a lot of shooting in LA after the fact. A lot of pickups, a lot of reshoots to give it the real feel, especially in the real world, you know, the roller skating scene and all that stuff, all in LA. But almost everything else, especially Barbie Land, was shot in the United Kingdom. So the budget for this movie was $140 million, which I guess in today's dollars is probably, you know, closer to 200, which is sort of that magical number today for a higher budget movie. But even then, this was considered a high mid-budget movie and with a lot of room for profit. It did premiere in Los Angeles at the Shrine Auditorium and then worldwide in July of 2023. So 2 years ago this month. Again, it's kind of hard to believe it's been that long. And how did it do? It made $1.4 billion at the box office. Not to mention the money it's made streaming and rentals and accessories. Mattel is probably very, very pleased with their investment. It became a cultural phenomenon linked with Oppenheimer as the summer double dip, the double date. One for the guys, one for the girls. And social media exploded promoting this film for free. One example is my son Curry and his friend Cooper. They have a social media platform called That's a Bad Idea. It's on all the channels. They put out a video and on the platforms had over 80 million views just for this one video.
Oh, hey, bro.
I thought you were working tonight.
I thought you were sick.
I was, but I am feeling better now.
What are you going to see?
Me?
Yeah.
Oppenheimer.
Are you seeing Barbie?
What?
You seeing Barbie with Margot Robbie?
No, I'm not seeing Barbie with Robbie. I'm not seeing that.
Sure?
Positive.
Why are you wearing a pink shirt?
What shirt?
Your shirt.
Oh, shit. This shirt's pink?
Yeah.
Thought it was blue.
It's clearly pink.
I'm colorblind. I have issues with color.
No, you're not.
Maybe you are.
I'm not.
Maybe you are. You are colorblind.
I've never seen you wear
I wear
that
the shirt all the time. Thought it was blue. Have trouble with color.
You're seeing the 713 sold out barber show, aren't you?
How do you know there's a 713 sold out Barbie show?
I don't. It was an honest guess.
Pretty specific guess.
Not that specific.
Are you seeing Barbie?
What? No.
Then why are you wearing pink shorts?
Weird. Had no idea.
Then what are you seeing?
Oppenheimer.
I thought we were seeing that together.
We are. We are. Which is why I lied.
You're seeing Barbie, aren't you?
I might be.
I might be as well.
Might be the best movie ever made.
Very well could be.
I thought you'd make fun of me for seeing Barbie because it's like for girls.
I thought the same thing, but it's not.
It's not.
It's for men too.
Barbie is for men.
It's got Gosling. We should probably get in there.
Quickly.
And a good time was had by all. And we begin to break down this screenplay with the official logline, and the official logline is, After being expelled from Barbie Land for being a less than perfect doll, Barbie sets off for the human world to find true happiness. Here's my go at it. One Barbie's existential crisis sends her crashing into the real world to find out what it really means to be human. Oh yeah, Ken was there too. Screenplay Statistics. 114 pages. As I said before, originally 147. 110 scenes. Runtime, 1 hour and 54 minutes. That is exactly 1 minute per page and one scene per page. And now for formatting, mechanics, and style. This is the part of the podcast where we show you how the individual screenwriters teach us to read their individual screenplay. Everyone does it a little different, and things we can pick up from them and see if we want to use it in our screenwriting or nah. Not a whole lot here outside the box, but there are some things. One, the scene headings. They got very creative here with the scene headings. On page 114, they use the rare mark through. The scene heading is Interior Ken Oval Office Day. And it was originally a Barbie Oval Office. So they do this to make a point. Instead of just, saying that it changed, they're showing you, hey, this used to be Barbie's office. Now it's Ken's. It's the Ken takeover. On page 27, they break up the interior, exterior to show us the exact locations. It says interior convertible / exterior Barbie Land open road morning. Now, in screenwriting, we usually put interior / exterior, then some sort of description. This actually makes more sense. And it's the only time in the screenplay they do it. There are several other interior, exterior where they do it the more traditional way. On page 18, they use a cut to instead of a scene heading. It says, cut to the real world with a little girl doing what all little girls do with their Barbies at some point. More traditionally, you would just put that as a scene heading, show what happened, and then back to the other scene. Here they forego the scene heading altogether. Page 14, they use 2 time designations on one slug. It says interior Barbie dream house, bedroom, period, night, period, later, period. And then to show that they use mini slugs, we'll look at page 15 here. They do this several times in the screenplay. Here it just says kitchen. Here they go from the bathroom to the kitchen. And mini slugs can be very helpful for a screenplay as long as they're not overly used. It just keeps you reading, keeps you going. They get very creative with their character tags. One of the things they do is they do name 3 actors in the screenplay directly on their character tags. We talked about it earlier, the Margot and Ryan Gosling, but here Helen Mirren is named. She's the narrator. She does all the voiceovers for the screenplay. She's like the matriarchal woman of the story. She survived Hollywood for 6 decades. And just so you can see it on the page, we have Barbie, Margot, we have Ken, Ryan Gosling. That's a pretty cool story. They also use character tags to insert even more comedy into the screenplay, as if it needed it. Page 38, we see here, we already have a Mattel employee. The next person that talks is younger Mattel employee. And then the next person who talks is an even younger Mattel employee. So instead of employee 1, employee 2, employee 3, just always delivering that comedy punch, one after another after another. In 63, we finally get to meet Sasha's dad, Gloria's husband, who is just sort of a punchline in the story, and his character name is Nerdy Well-Meaning Dad. I haven't checked on IMDb, but I'm sure it's in there. I'm sure this actor is tagged as Nerdy Well-Meaning Dad, which is pretty funny. They use underlining quite a bit in the screenplay, mostly just to emphasize a point. We'll take a look at one example on page 2 here. It says, and now Barbie's world gets continually multifaceted and wide-ranging and diverse and interesting. So they wanted to point this out as something to pay attention to, so they underlined it. They use bold in the screenplay to indicate things that will be read on the screen. Here on page 25, there's a sign, a goodbye sign for Barbie as she's going to the real world, and it's in bold, and it says, bon voyage to reality and good luck restoring the membrane that separates our world from theirs so you don't get cellulite! Exclamation point. And then finally, the way they use dual dialogue isn't really for characters talking over each other, but it's more to bunch dialogue together. So it's like these people will be talking about the same time, and just to take up less space on the page, we're going to squish it together and do some dual dialogue. We see that on page 30 where we have the 4 construction workers. And if you remember from the film, they're not talking over each other, not talking at the same time, but these are the lines that they say. And so they just squeeze them together here at the bottom of the page. Just going to take a quick time out here to say thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. It means a lot to me. Also, some housekeeping, if you could like it or comment or leave a review, that would mean a lot to me. Also, if you're listening to the podcast, you can always watch it and vice versa. You can also follow me on all the socials. I try to keep up there. We could be friends. And you can always find out what's going on with me at my website, jeff-barker.com. All right, now back to the podcast.
Thank you for watching my dad's podcast.
And now for direction on the page, where we look at the screenplay and see how this screenwriter in particular does or doesn't use direction on the page. This is a writer-director, at least one of the teammates here is, Greta Gerwig. On her screenplay, it says, we see, we stay, we follow, the we's, where we are in the position of the camera. 34 times in the screenplay, we get that. There's also 4 times where the camera is referenced directly. And also the cut twos, the cut backs, the match cuts, 19 of those in the screenplay. So I would say this is low direction on the page compared to some people that we've read. I know you guys like to debate it. I just like to give out the information. And now to the best part, the writing on the page. So many cool things to talk about here. First, let's talk about the movie references. This screenplay has 33 movie references in the script. It's really, really interesting. We'll take a look at some of them on page 102. The Kens, it says they're approaching the cul-de-sac as if they're riding horses, but they're just galloping on foot, Monty Python style. Page 66, they pass the beach and the Kens are playing volleyball a la Top Gun style, and the Barbies are cheering. This is the reverse of the beginning. Earlier in the screenplay, it was the Barbies that were playing Top Gun volleyball, and the Kens were cheering for them. Also on this page, it says the Kens race on the beach and hug triumphantly in the surf, a la Rocky III. Page 87, and Barbie Alexandra is broken from her spell where she was just hanging out with the Ken bros. As she says, it was like I was in some dream where I was somehow really invested in the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, which is timely since Superman just came out this week. Page 87, Barbie scans all the different girls' faces, and then bam, like Roy Scheider in Jaws seeing that kid getting eaten, she sees her girl, the one from her vision. Page 88 is my favorite. They say, she suddenly has a new authority, a deeper voice from a place of real knowing, like Olivia de Havilland at the end of The Heiress. Now go watch that movie, it says, in parentheses. And how are we not going to take a movie recommendation from Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach? They also reference Clueless, The Philadelphia Story, Grease, West Side Story, The Shining, American in Paris, The Matrix, Lord of the Flies, Saving Private Ryan, The Godfather, Tokyo Drift, Raging Bull, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And there are other ones too. The famous I'm Just Ken musical number is actually hidden in the screenplay. Did you know that? They buried it in code on purpose because they knew that executives would not go for it. It's on page 101 and is hidden in there as a dream ballet of frustrated masculinity. So obviously if you read the screenplay, you know something goes there, but no idea that it would be this huge musical number. Word got out that this was going to happen and she was told not to bother with it, but guess what? She shot it anyway.
I'm just kidding. Where I see love, she sees a friend. What will it take for her to see the man behind the tent and fight for? I'm just kidding, and I'm enough, and I'm great at doing stuff. So hey, check me out, yeah, I'm just kidding.
She snuck it into a cut to show the executives, and then she said afterwards when the lights go up, quote, everything in my entire being needs this to be in the movie. And so her passion and her execution won them over. And I bet they're glad they listened. And we want to talk about world building here through tone and theme. And this is what I was talking about earlier about one thing that Greta Gerwig does great. And again, Noah Baumbach gets tons of credit here. But Greta also does this in her other scripts, where when she's writing action lines, the action line is written in the tone or the voice of the character who's driving that scene. And in this screenplay, we start with a very innocent toy and toys in a world that's very childlike, and then she grows and matures into a human who has to deal with the complications of being an adult. So the tone of the action lines gets more and more mature as we go. We'll look at a couple of quick examples of that. Page 2, second page of the screenplay, we get the girls all mirror what their Barbie is. So the doctor is the doctor, the ballerina is the ballerina, etc. So it's written, that's sort of how a young girl would talk, ending in a preposition, double mentioning things, etc., etc. A big word they just learned. And there's tons of that in here, not just this one action line. Page 27, 28, there's the car crash, and it says, Ryan Gosling pops up in the back seat singing, and Barbie Margot screams her head off. And then he screams at her screaming. So that's very adolescent-like, right? And then there's the crash, and it describes it. And just so that we know as a reader, oh, this is the tone of this is funny. It's not, because when you read car crash, you're like, we've seen so many car crashes in films. We think, ooh, this is horrible. But it says, still hysterical. So just letting us know, oh, it's all good. The car lands upright on its tires, no damage. As we move into the final act of the screenplay, it becomes more and more mature. We're getting the perspective of adult Barbie, who's coming to the realization about the pros and cons of being human. On 113, it says, and she feels and sees what a human life is, the joy and pain of being mortal, all that she will lose and gain. That's a very mature action line compared to the beginning, for sure. And then this one also caps it off, which I think is pretty funny. We see that she's wearing Birkenstocks, pink, of course, but still Birks. The screenplay is very meta. And I had to look that up several months ago. I'm embarrassed to say. I kept hearing meta, and I was, in my mind, thinking meta was more like a tone, or it's, how we used to use the word like preppy. I don't know how I got that in my head, but everyone kept saying meta, 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 and it didn't make sense in the context they were saying it. So I looked it up, and you probably knew this all along, but meta is when something is about itself, when we're getting inside information. In other words, the screenplay talks about itself as a movie in the screenplay. On page 12, Barbie Margot contemplates human mortality, and we get in the action line, literal record scratch, and everything is quiet. All the Barbies and Kens look at her. She's broken the movie.
Do you guys ever think about dying?
I don't know why I just said that.
I'm just dying to dance.
Page 11, DJ Barbie turns up the song, which is the amazing original hit song for this movie. So leaving it there like as a marker. We don't know what the song is, but it's going to be great, and this is where it's going to go. Page 85 is the most meta of all, and it comes from dialogue in the screenplay where Barbie is saying that she doesn't feel pretty anymore, and then Gloria is telling her, you are pretty. And then she says, but I'm not stereotypical Barbie pretty. And then Helen Mirren, the voice, jumps in and says, note to filmmakers, you should have never cast Margot Robbie if you wanted to make this point. So great joke there, very meta. And I'm not kidding when I say this is one of the funniest screenplays I've read in years. So if you don't care about Barbie, or you're too cool for Barbie, maybe you didn't even see the movie, which is unlikely, I would recommend as a screenwriter to read this screenplay. It's a great example of voice, especially a comedic voice. I'll go through some of them here just to give you a taste. The first line of the screenplay is hilarious and sets the whole tone for the screenplay. Exterior, a desert-like landscape day. Like Kubrick's 2001, but with little girls, not apes. And with baby dolls, not sticks and stuff. There's a hilarious dialogue exchange between the Kens about beaching each other off. Let's just watch.
This beach was a little too much beach for you, Ken.
If I wasn't severely injured, I would beat you off right now, Ken.
I'll beach off with you any day, Ken.
Hold my ice cream, Ken. All right, Ken, you're on. Let's beach off.
Anyone who wants to beach him off has to beach me off first.
I will beach both of you off at the same time.
But you don't even know how to beat yourself off. How are you going to beach both of us
Of
off?
course I
It
know how
doesn't
to-
make sense.
Ken?
And
Why
you
are
can
you
beat
getting
yourself off.
emotional?
You're going to beach both of us off.
Page 19, when they're describing Barbie, it says asymmetrical short haircut and mismatched clothes. She's like David Bowie plus a hairless cat. Page 25, the Kens all stand to the side, a bit like men at a baby shower. There, but not. Page 40, there's a hilarious exchange between the Mattel CEO and one of his underlings. And he's saying, can you just email it, send it to me, EOD, and then proud. That's end of day. And he says, may I put it in a whisper, sir? And he goes, fine, whisper me. On page 43, they're describing a group of girls, and it says they all have hydro flask, big t-shirts, scrunchies, Mario Badescu, or whatever kids are into after the pandemic. Page 97, Ken Ryan Gosling says, who are you texting? Barbie Margot says, huh? And then he says again, who are you texting? And then the action line says, anyone who asked that question twice has lost all power. Isn't that true? So you may not think all those are funny, but it's not even the level of comedy. It's the relentless, the whole screenplay, action line after action line after action line is a joke. But they're still propelling the story forward. It's not just like a joke book. So if you experience this as a film and you go read it, it's a whole other experience. Another thing to point out is their use of the word maybe. I'll just give you an example here and then we'll talk about it. Page 4, it says, Barbie Issa Rae, president, maybe in a ball gown, signs a bill into law. This shows up over and over again. There are 16 instances in the screenplay where they use the language maybe, which is very passive. And I was trying to figure out why are they doing this? Because there's nothing by accident. It's not like they put that in there and just didn't realize they were saying maybe. Every single word in the screenplay has a purpose. Low-hanging fruit here would be to say, okay, they're just putting this in here for some ideas for wardrobe. No, that's not what's going on here. I think that they're writing in this passive way to sort of illustrate how women feel forced to talk in conversation with each other, with other men, where they can have an opinion, but they're afraid to express it. Also, on top of that, it does add some mystery to the script. Maybe not about the ball gown, but there's some more in here where you just sort of read the script and it feels like, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? What's going on here? Page 19. Weird Barbie hitches her leg down and lopes oddly into a giant room. Maybe she does a flip or two. 34. Glimpses of a girl, maybe in pigtails. 45. Sasha's verbal jabs are like a boxer relentlessly landing punches in a ring. Maybe we even shoot it like Raging Bull. 87. Exhausted, she sits down. Alan is in tears. They all are. Maybe a slow clap. Page 93. All the Kens at once. Maybe in a team photo type thing. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe this is just her voice, but something tells me that that's not the case. This screenplay has a truly remarkable ending, and it's a payoff to this character growing into the uncertainties of being human, the positives and the negatives. Barbie's fully human, and she's meeting with a receptionist, and left to our own devices, we conclude that she's most likely there for an interview. What job is she going for? Is it a low-paying job that she's just willing to work her way up, or is she going to do a Barbie job and apply to be president or something? And then she says, with so much pride, so much anticipation, so much meaning, so much deep joy, I'm here to see my gynecologist. And here's the truly, obviously that's a funny joke, but here's the true ending of the screenplay that is like the exclamation point. It says in the action line, cut to black before anyone can even process that sentence. The end. This screenplay does an amazing job of acknowledging the brand placement that is in place here and not hiding from it. It's a hard thing to do. It's a delicate balance because you don't want to beat the reader, the viewer over the head with this, but you also don't want to pretend like it's not happening because it's so obvious. In this screenplay, Mattel is mentioned 116 times, so not hiding from it at all. You have this over-the-top CEO with a big heart, played by Will Ferrell in the film, and I was impressed to see that the lines in the screenplay are very Will Ferrell-esque. I mean, I don't know if they modified the lines once he was cast or she wrote it for him, but he's not mentioned as Will Ferrell CEO. He's Mattel CEO. On page 102, the Barbies are sick and tired of hearing about the Barbie houses now being the Mojo Dojo Casa House, whatever all it was he was calling it. And Barbie Isa says, "That's because they're dream houses, mother." Beep. And NK beeps here with the star, 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 star. And then the action line underneath it says, "She's censored by a Mattel logo." So even as they were writing this screenplay, they were thinking of ways to make fun of the fact that they were writing a screenplay for a toy company. And can you imagine the benefit that Mattel got from this movie? I mean, it is just remarkable. The goodwill. They basically rewrote the story of Barbie. And, well, I'll just say this. For me, I would have never, look, this is personal, but I never would have let my girls play with Barbies. I was anti-Barbie for years. And this movie really changed my perspective because I saw that Barbie could be something to empower women rather than to try to just put them in their place. Now, maybe I'm just, the exact schmo that they were looking for this story, but it really hit home for me to show Barbie in a different perspective. And now, I mean, I'm in the playroom. You should see how many Barbies there are in here. This screenplay has one of the most significant and memorable monologues in modern cinema. Something you wouldn't expect from a toy movie. On page 86, we have Gloria, who is played by America Ferrera, and she was Oscar nominated for her role in this film. But, I mean, this monologue was probably why. She kills it. She absolutely destroys this monologue. But it's all about the writing. It's all in there. You can see it on the page. But let's check it out.
You have to be thin, but not too thin. And you can never say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy, but also you have to be thin. You have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. You have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You're supposed to love being a mother, but don't talk about your kids all the damn time. You have to be a career woman, but also always be looking out for other people. You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane, but if you point that out, you're accused of complaining. You're supposed to stay pretty for men, but not so pretty that you tempt them too much or that you threaten other women because you're supposed to be a part of the sisterhood, but always stand out and always be grateful. But never forget that the system is rigged, so find a way to acknowledge that, but also always be grateful. You have to never get old. Never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never show fear, never get out of line. It's too hard, it's too contradictory, and nobody gives you a medal or says thank you.
One of the things that makes the writing so good is that they pull off this complicated dance of dual protagonists that are not on the same journey. You have two protagonists, and it's pretty easy to put them on the same journey. They're learning the same lessons. They're growing in the same way, in the same direction. Here they have two protagonists, Barbie and Ken, who are growing in different directions. They have their own wants, their own needs, their own gets, and they pull it off. Barbie just wants everything to stay exactly like it is and be perfect. What she needs, though, is to learn how to be imperfect, how to choose her own purpose in life. And what she gets at the end is a beautiful life of imperfection, of self-discovery as a human. What Ken wants, on the other hand, is Barbie's love. And he needs, though, to discover his own self-worth. And in the end, he realizes he's a knuff. And that is Barbie by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach. And what makes this screenplay unique is its world building and voice shifting from childlike to mature characters that are gaining insight. It's unrelenting comedy on the page. its ability to carry two different protagonist stories independently of each other. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Follow me on the socials. I try to do that, keep up with that. Also, you can always find out what's going on with me at my website, jeff-barker.com. And I want to say thank you to my friends, and we'll see you next time, right here on the Screenplay Lab.
Thank you for watching my dad's podcast.